What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you stopping by, spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. I wanted to talk to you guys about a specific archetype that I've been working with recently, that I've been exploring, that I've been observing in my own experience. Okay, you could say I've been channeling this archetype, and so while I'm there, I wanted to sort of introduce you to this archetype, okay? And I say introduce because I have witnessed this archetype, let's say, in popular movies, right? But I've never heard anyone talk about this archetype in the way that we're about to talk about it now. Okay, and that archetype would be what I have been calling the Archaic Man, all right? And it's a very interesting archetype for me because it can be so magical, all right? But first, before we really get into the archetype, let's talk about this word archaic. I want to go ahead and define this word for us here so we're on the same page, okay? Because a lot of people would define the word archaic as old-fashioned, outdated, and in some cases even obsolete, right? But me personally, my favorite definition for the word archaic is not merely crude, but possessing a certain imperfection that promises future improvement or progress or development, all right? So it sort of is like there's a reason why we have held on to ancient and archaic belief systems and traditional ways of seeing things, like traditional value systems like religions and things like this. There's a reason why we've held on to this for so long. It's because it appears that these ancient systems possess some sort of wisdom that we just cannot do without, right? Even though most of it might be hogwash, there is something there, something that renders us incapable of letting go of it for real, right? And it's sort of, it's like if we could take that ancient wisdom and combine it with our modern know-how, we would really be getting somewhere in life, right? And so that's why I like this definition of the word archaic. So that's what archaic means. Now we can start getting into the archetype. And the way I want to do this is I want to describe 4 identifying characteristics, distinguishing characteristics of this archetype. And I want to do this sort of quickly. And then we will explore a couple of popular archetypes, archetypal characters from popular movies, okay? So we can get a better understanding of this, all right? So the first identifying characteristic of this archetype, the Archaic Man, is a deep connection with nature. And this may be a symbolic connection with nature, but this could mean literally like a connection with the trees and the birds and the bees and the water and the wind and the sky and things like this. It could be that sort of deep connection with nature. But this could also mean being connected with nature in the sense of human nature, understanding the motivations of the people around you, right? Or being very intuitive, just being very in touch with your environment, very observant. It's almost like, being able to put your ear to the ground and hear a threat from a long ways away. This could be connected to nature. It could mean something like this, okay? So that's the first identifying characteristic, a deep connection to nature. Now, the second character trait is that this Archaic Man acts as a bridge between worlds, a bridge between 2 worlds, the regular world and the magical world, right? The regular world and the exciting world, okay? One that's essentially meaningless to one that's filled with meaning and fate and destiny and purpose and stuff like this, okay? So they perform this role as a bridge between two worlds. Maybe they're a transporter or a guide, or they perform the introductions or something like this, but this is the second character trait, a bridge between two worlds, okay? Now the third characteristic would be holding to a traditional value set. All right, and it's pretty much self-explanatory, but there is some details we'll need to get into with the examples. Okay, so holding to a traditional value set. Now, the fourth and the last identifying characteristic that we'll talk about here today is a checkered past. This Archaic Man has had their reputation called into question, or perhaps there is trauma in their past or something like this. But by the time the story plays out, this person will be found innocent or proven to be loyal or something like this, okay? So that's the four identifying characteristics. Now I would like to explore with you two characters from popular movies that fit this archetype, all right? And the first one would be Han Solo from Star Wars. And you might be like, wait a second, Han Solo. I already know that Han Solo is the rebel, right? A lot of people, when they talk about Han Solo, they identify him as the rebel archetype. And in my opinion, that would be totally accurate, all right? But Han Solo isn't only the rebel, right? There's a lot more to this character that we can dig up, right? So let's talk about it. That first identifying characteristic, a connection to nature. Han Solo displays this in his relationship with the Wookiee, right? This very hairy, almost like half ape, half human sort of creature, right? That speaks this ancient, organic, archaic language that Han can somehow understand, and the Wookiee can somehow understand what Han is saying. Right? And this is very symbolic of Han Solo's deep connection to nature. Han Solo is sort of like street smart or something like that. He knows about the intentions of people, but he has this sort of general mistrust or something like this. But he's very in tune with nature. Now, the second identifying characteristic, a bridge between worlds, right? It's like when Luke needed to leave the ordinary world, right? And make it to that world where it's full of destiny, where you're the chosen one and you have a purpose and stuff like this. Who did they find, right? They found Han Solo, and Han Solo has the Millennium Falcon, so he transports the chosen one from that regular world to the new world, to a magical world filled with meaning, okay? So he's a bridge between two worlds. Now, we say a traditional value system. Han Solo holds to a traditional value system, okay? And he sort of is a man's man, all right? And you can really see this dynamic sort of play out when he is communicating with the princess, right? In his relationship with the princess, he's an archaic man. And this is one of the things, it's like the archaic man always struggles with relationships, always struggles with the opposite sex. They can never seem to get it down and understand what's going on or view a woman as an equal or something like this. So this is sort of what I mean by this traditional value set. They have some problems with love. They just can't quite figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Because of this traditional value system that they have, or something like this. And that's pretty evident with Han Solo, in my opinion, right? Now, that fourth, a checkered past, right? Trauma or their reputation has been called into question. Han Solo is living on the outskirts of society, and who knows for what, right? It seems like he's been sort of pushed out. He's been sort of exiled for some reason, and there are rumors, right, that Han Solo is smuggling illegal contraband. He might even be smuggling a futuristic version of some sort of drug, right, in the Star Wars universe. So his reputation is definitely called into question. It's a little, he has a checkered past, but by the end of the story, we see that Han Solo has proven his loyalty and sort of earns back his spot in society or something like this. Whether he chooses to take it may be a different story or something like that, you know what I'm saying? But, so Yeah, that's Han Solo. Now, the second character, the last character I would like to talk to you in regards to the Archaic Man archetype is my favorite. And it's my favorite probably because there's just such a richness to the character, okay? That we can talk about, that we can extract, okay? And that would be Hagrid from the Harry Potter series, okay? Hagrid as the Archaic Man archetype. So that first identifying characteristic, a deep connection with nature. Hagrid is very much connected with nature. This is displayed in a variety of ways. First, the beard. The beard on a man, that big old bushy beard like that is on Hagrid, is very symbolic, okay? This is him. He's connected to nature. He's the Archaic Man. He doesn't shave. He's not a modern man who is shaving his face naked every day. He has this beard and he lets it grow out, and he's connected to something, okay? Now, Hagrid owns that giant Neapolitan Mastiff in the movies named Fang, right? So he owns this big old dog, and he lives in a hut on the grounds of the castle. So he's not in the castle, he's out on the grounds, right next to the Forbidden Forest. And Hagrid is one of the only people in this series who sort of has like a G-Pass and is able to go into the Forbidden Forest. The Forbidden Forest is forbidden to everyone else, but Hagrid has connections in the Forbidden Forest that allow him a certain protection when he goes in there. He is safe. He is able to traverse that world of the Forbidden Forest because of his connection, right? And his connection is with the creatures of the Forbidden Forest, okay? So he's very much connected. Hagrid is the groundskeeper of Hogwarts in the beginning, right? So he keeps the grounds. He's the caretaker of the grounds, of nature, of the landscaping, okay? So this is another way he's in touch with nature. He's connected to nature, right? And Fang even seems to understand him, but he can talk to a variety of different magical creatures, right? And understands how to communicate with them, like the hippogriff. You need to bow and wait for it to bow back to you. And if it doesn't, don't approach. He understands the language. He's connected. They show you in the very first movie, Hagrid does a spell on Dudley, right? And it makes him grow a pigtail, and that's that wild, chaotic magic that Hagrid is very much in tune with, okay? Hagrid at one point is awarded the post of caretaker of magical creatures, and he's given a class to teach all about caretaking of magical creatures. So you can see another symbolic representation of his deep connection to nature, and that is an old, ancient, wild, unrefined form of magic. Very, very powerful. What the normal wizard is using in Harry Potter is sort of like a refined version of that magic. But Hagrid is tapped in to the source directly. You see what I'm saying? He is the Archaic Man. Now, that second identifying characteristic, a bridge between worlds, right? Hagrid is the one who comes and kicks down the door to Harry's place where he's staying and informs Harry of his true identity. Harry, you're a wizard, okay? What are you doing here? These people haven't told you, right? And then he invites Harry to come to the magical world with him, puts him on his flying motorcycle, right? And delivers him straight to the magical world. So Harry leaves behind the Muggle world and enters that world of witchcraft and wizardry, right? Into the new world, the magical world, where all of his meaning, all of his purpose, his fate, his destiny is all there. Hagrid is the one that connects him, right? He is the missing link. Hagrid is the one that comes and gets him and delivers him, okay? Now, holds to a traditional value system. Hagrid holds to a traditional value system. He's very loyal to Dumbledore. He sort of is like a good guy, but also Hagrid doesn't find any love. Hagrid doesn't have like a partner. There's no romantic interest there, and he's such a sweet guy that you kind of want that for him, right? And Hagrid is half giant, by the way. That's why he's so big. He's half giant. And this is another symbolic representation of him being connected to nature, right? Being half giant, he's connected to an ancient time. He's the Archaic Man, right? So, and Hagrid being a giant connected to that ancient thing has a traditional set of values, which is sort of why he's a loner, right? And he doesn't find love until like at the very end of the series when he meets another half-giant woman, and they seem to get along perfectly, right? Because they share some characteristics, right? They share that same traditional thought process, and they mesh, right? Okay, now that fourth thing, a checkered past. Your reputation has been called into trauma, right? Under question. So when Hagrid was attending Hogwarts, he was actually accused of being the first person to open the Chamber of Secrets, and as a result, some students were killed, and he was framed. His wand was taken from him forever, indefinitely. He was expelled from the school, never allowed to come back. That's how he ended up on the outskirts, in the hut, by the Forbidden Forest, and going into the Forbidden Forest, you know what I'm saying? All because of this. But by the end of the story, Hagrid is proven to be innocent. He's proven to be loyal, right? And this is sort of a big deal. Another character that I could think of that fits this would be Detective Harry Ambrose from the show called The Sinner. And that right there is symbolic in itself. The sinner. This is an archaic way of thinking of people. The sinner, okay? And proving innocence. And you have to prove your own innocence because your reputation has been called into question or something like this. This is an archaic way of carrying around guilt and shame, of believing about things, about believing in human nature or something like this. But anyway, yeah, so that's the Archaic Man archetype. I hope that you, get something out of this. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you find it interesting. I hope that it made sense to you. I've been exploring this archetype myself in my own life for a while now. You know what I mean? I'm growing out the beard and stuff like this, but I've had communications with this energy for a long time. You know what I mean? I like to be out here like this. I'm always out here trying to get in touch with nature, trying to, you know what I mean? Just get more in touch with myself. And it can be a very eye-opening experience, you know what I mean? You learn a language, a new language that you're able to speak, that you're able to see everywhere and communicate with. And it's a magical language. It's an ancient magical language. And by entertaining this, getting out here, seeing sort of how the ancients saw the world, how they viewed nature, this can transport you to an entirely new world where things have meaning. Because when we go through this materialistic mindset, science and stuff like this, it's like, yeah, sure, everything is defined, but nothing has any meaning. Nothing has any real meaning or something like this. But we can get in touch with that meaning and feel that within us, you know what I'm saying? And overcome our past, we can be forgiven. We can be proven innocent, proven loyal, sort of thing. This is like, this is like the being saved part of the Christian religion. You know what I'm saying? And everyone should experience that. Save yourself. You know what I'm saying? Forgive yourself, kind of thing like this, man. But anyway, man. Until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.